Hello, and welcome to another Gwent City video. My name is ManTXD, and I have both of the official casters for the Gwent Challenger. They're not just that, but they're great players, they're great content creators. Here we go, McBeard and MegaM0wai. Here we go, how you guys doing?
You heard that? We're wonderful, Dane.
It was way shorter
We're
than
wonderful
practice,
people.
right? No, actually more
Great, man. How are you?
Gwentful people. So,
Wonderful. Yeah, I like that one.
indeed.
Nice.
So, you guys were casting the Gwent tournament, the official Gwent tournament. How was that experience?
Go ahead, Miguel. You can start.
You can go for okay. Yeah, it was great actually. Like it was. I mean, I'm gonna speak for myself, but I'm pretty sure a lot of things that I say, Dane can agree. Like we were both pretty blown away. Like I was expecting, something big for sure, but everything that we experienced through my eyes was just so much more. Like the production, the quality, and just the high of the moment. Like I just never was a part of something like that before, honestly. Like it's a very big difference from talking in front of your camera in your room than being exposed like that. And just I don't know, it's hard to describe with words, really. Let's see if you can do better. Partner.
Yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I mean, it was obviously, yeah, like we said, the production was amazing, and the people that we got to work with were very helpful. They helped us practice all the way up to it. Josh Gray was like our lead caster that was with us, and he was really great to work with. Yoda, he was our Yoda. He taught us Senpai. And it was good. No, it was really good, and like it was such a great experience. Like the rush of it happening, and then like having to focus in on the games, and then during breaks, like all of my mind would go crazy like during the breaks, and then we'd have to like bring it all back in again for the games, and like it was a roller coaster because it was like a 10-hour event. So, but I hope we move up from here. But like in my mind, it's like how are we ever going to break that? Like that moment was. It was such a long 10-hour moment. So it was a great day. It was a great day. And it was the day. It was like right around my birthday too. So it was like extra special for me on top of that all. So
Awesome.
it was just great. It was. I mean, you all saw the show. You all saw how great it all looked and how how the event went. And we were feeling it too. We were watching it with you. So it was just great.
No, indeed. I believe something that separated you guys from the rest, from other tournaments and everything, is that I constantly heard that passion. I constantly heard that love for the game, and for that, let me tell you, thank you, because that made it incredible, that much more special. So
It was pretty easy though with the quality of the games. Like we were expecting, like we were talking prior to the event. We are saying hopefully we get some cool games here and there, because some of the lists look pretty standard, and there was some crazy stuff. Because obviously you can see Life Coach's lineup, but we were expecting okay games here and there. But we were pretty blown back by like every single match was so epic. So it kind of like. Because people talk about the grind you guys did, and it didn't really feel too much like a grind. I don't know. It was really hyped the entire ride. So,
yeah, like at no point did I feel like I wasn't ever like tired. I was I was feeling it, but I wasn't tired. Like I could feel that like, oh, my voice is getting a little workout here. But it was and yeah, like McGwai said about the decks and like the quality of the games, like McGwai and you as well, Manti, like we all play on the ladder, right? We see a lot of the same decks over and over again. That's what happens on ladders, like card game ladders. But in tournaments, you get to see a little bit more variation. And then when you bring players like that came in, like players that maybe practice like really, really hard for shorter spans of time, but maybe didn't experience like the game to the length that we did, they just kind of brought just a different variety. They just approached the game and looked at it a little differently. And that caused interesting lists and very interesting games and just a lot more variation than you'd ever see on the ladder, especially with some of the deck choices that came through. So yeah, it was really great.
yeah, that experience was fantastic. I bet, but the game has changed drastically since that point. And we have seen that some other factions that were at the bottom, they're starting to rise up. And for that, we can start with the Nilfgaard main. So, MegaMogai, how do you feel about the changes with Nilfgaard?
yeah. I love him. I absolutely love him. Even though I kind of took pride of being a Nilfgaard main when it was kind of like the hipster thing to do, because nobody would really ladder with that, and I would exclusively ladder with Nilfgaard. I did like have a high point that I couldn't, surpass, which was 4.5k MMR, because beyond that, it was really tough to be consistent with the faction back then. And now they seem like super strong. I've just started laddering this morning, actually. And I went 8-0 with John Calvet, and it feels good. Like that deck actually being viable, especially the Imperial Golems. There's been so many things added to the faction that have made him really strong now. And I think the likes of John Calvet and Amir are looking very, very solid, and Morvran as well with Reveal. It's it feels good. If you've been a Nilfgaard main for a long time, you endured all the bad times. I think it's our time to shine, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. What about you? How do you feel about the changes to Nilfgaard and overall?
I think that Nilfgaard is so like a lot of the stuff in Nilfgaard feels familiar still. Like there's a lot of the tools that are the same. The leaders didn't really change. I mean, Emir is a new leader or a spy pulling leader, but generally like the way you play Nilfgaard, raw tossers are still staples, and there's some other cards that still function in the same way, but then they got all these extra tools. So if you were already a Nilfgaard player, you are just kind of benefiting from a lot of new toys that are very powerful. So I think that that's one of the reasons why Nilfgaard is seen as much stronger now, is that the gameplay didn't really change. It got its power level increased or changed or shifted, or better quality of life stuff like the Darlan Foot soldiers coming out on reveal, and the way the Scorpions work on reveal where they fire off, and like all sorts of really like cool stuff with reveal that the faction just needed just to make it a bit more robust and competitive. So now that they are stronger and people who love Nilfgaard can just take advantage of that, I think that's maybe why there's a surge of Nilfgaard power. But they're also quite strong. I'm not taking away from the strength of the faction as well. So yeah, I still haven't dug in yet. I want to though.
Oh, I see. No, I actually, once again, I consider myself a Nilfgaard lover, and the changes were fantastic. I really really like the direction that the game is going on. But once again, the game, it has changed, it has evolved, it has changed for the better, in my opinion. But what about you guys? What are you guys playing? What do you like the most about the changes so far?
That's a very interesting, hard question to answer, right? Because I like a lot of different like archetypes that have risen. I am enjoying the new Squaita a lot. I think they've changed a lot for the better, even though weather control Ethne is very powerful, and it kind of reminds you of good old control Squaita a little bit. But I do like the dwarves, the moving dwarves with Sheldon Skaggs and Barkley Elves. Brewerhoog is just very fun as a leader right now. You also have Skellige with King Bran and Queensguard. I've always loved Queensguard, and they seem, I don't know, I love stuff like the new Madman Lugos. The game as a whole feels more thematic. Like decks seem more like defined, and the leaders seem more like they have a theme behind them. Like every single leader supports a specific archetype, and you can tweak it here and there. And I think it feels like more medieval everything. Like before, it was just kind of like dominating the ladder, and then you had a specific archetype of Skellige that could just burst and keep up with them sometimes, and that was pretty much the meta. And now I feel like we have so many possibilities, so many combinations, and we're only scratching the surface as of right now, I feel.
Oh yeah, definitely. We just started. McBeard, what about you?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot more viability for a lot of different archetypes. Like it feels like every faction is either trying to have or are expecting to have like 3 viable archetypes that aren't necessarily tied to the leaders. I think maybe monsters have the most hard set faction leaders in Consume and Weather and Wild Hunt. Although you can still, I think eventually we're going to start to break out from there. Like I think that Aridin could actually pilot a couple of different decks, like just because he's so flexible. And I mean, right now it seems like obvious you'd use Francesca for a mulligan based deck, but perhaps Francesca, because mulliganing is still valuable in other situations. Perhaps Francesca doesn't have to be the leader of a mulligan deck, or sorry, I think she always has to be leader of a mulligan deck, but she could be a leader of a different kind of deck at the same time. Where I think we're going to see that kind of stuff. Like right now, everything feels like, oh, it's an elf deck. I need to play elves, etc., etc. So I think that's going to start to get a little bit more varied. And I think New Northern Realms is also suffering from that. People just need to kind of get a handle on it. And I think their power level is latent at the moment. I don't think anything needs to change. Someone's going to figure it out. And I've seen some cool stuff, like just in the last couple of days, like Northern Realms is getting a little bit more popular every day. Yeah, generally, I mean, I've been loving Spell Scoia'tael, which is kind of outside of my wheelhouse, but it's just such a hard control deck. And it's a deck that I get to run Villain Tretmirth in. And I think it's just, it's a really control-y deck. And that's like my favorite deck at the moment. But I've played Dagon Fog, like Weather Monsters, and it's pretty cool too. You can get away with some pretty crazy swings. But Weather in general has been pretty strong.
And like controlling like the spell Squirtle that you mentioned, like that's not easy to pilot. Like that's definitely not a beginner-friendly deck. I think that's a good deck for like players with like a complex experience and seeing like how to sequence their things. I've talked with like the likes of my boy Carl, Ancient Silence, and he says he really likes that deck because it's pretty cool. Yeah, because it rewards,
Yeah, you can build it so many different ways. You can build it aggressively. You can build it you can build it with or without mercenaries. You can build it with or without like 3 first lights or not. I run a whole suite of specials, like 1-ofs of like all these different special cards. But you can build it in a couple of different ways. On top of the fact that it's always going to kind of hinge around casting as many spells as possible, and I don't know. That's just I love that deck right now, and I'm just exploring like all the different combinations of special cards, and I absolutely run mercenaries though for that flexibility.
No, indeed.
That's good.
That is definitely a great point that you both have. And as a matter of fact, I experienced something that I didn't before on the game. So my very first idea was, I want to mill my opponent. And from that idea, I actually am playing a self-milling deck, if that makes any sense, which I actually play every single card to the point that I had to play...
Nilfgaard?
Yeah, self-milling Nilfgaard. Yeah. So I had to add 2 more extra cards just in case they will actually run Avalok, and I wouldn't completely run out of steam. But it works really well because you have access to your entire deck. You have that thematic thing that you want to do and actually accomplish. So I'm very happy with that.
You run Azir in that deck?
No, because what happened is I run ADC and I share ADC between Cantarella and the Golem. So with so with this we actually happened. That was my very first to go, but then I'm like ADC, and it's like, what are you doing here? Oh no, So yeah,
I love Azir's like one of my favorite cards that got altered basically, because the deck that I've been laddering with, like the deck that I'm exclusively laddering with, is my John Calvet tempo deck. Because people ask me, McGwai, what is the best Nilfgaard? What Nilfgaard are you running now? Like Spies or Revere? I'm like, I'm not running any of those. I'm running a tempo Calvate with I really like the Alba Pikemen. I really do like them. Like the new, like they're the old Reaver Hunters basically. And I can talk about the Reaver Hunters too. They're pretty strong. But the Alba Pikemen are very good for like thinning. And I like the tempo swing with the Imperial Golems and John Calvate. And I like using Siri offensively a lot to ensure round 1. And then I proceed to abuse Roach with Azir, because I play Roach, and then I use Azir to bring Roach back. If they disrupt my Alba Pikeman chain, I use Azir to bring the Alba Pikeman to the deck back as well. And she's very good with John Calvate, because in the 3rd round, you can fish for something that you utilize, like Ox, Decoy, Raw Tosser, like a specific card that you want back in your deck because you have Kahir in your hand. And Azir can not only return Roach, which is is a prime target, but also something else that you may won't be able to potentially fish. And I found that to be very successful, like being able to search for the answers and utilizing Tibor as a finisher, which is Tibor is exceptional. And K-Ren, for example, from Monsters, watch out for that dude. That guy is good.
Surprising,
he's good.
Yeah.
People say it was bad, like laughing at people for running him. No, he's legit. Like K-Ren is legit.
When my wife first saw the premium Azir, she's like, "Who is she?" And I went a deck around her. Like you see, was like,
Yeah,
oh my god, it was
Amazing,
amazing.
amazing,
Yes.
amazing art.
What
Oh
about
man, she's beautiful.
what about you, McBeard? What's your faction right now? What's your favorite? What you got to?
Yeah, well, I talked about running Spell Scoia'tael and Fog Monsters,
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I have been playing, and I only just broke into ranked. I was so busy yesterday, I really didn't get a chance to play very many games at all, but I just broke into ranked. I just cracked into rank 7, like still like super low, but those decks, the Fog Monsters and Spell Scoia'tael, have been so far like the best for me so far. And the next thing I'm going to try is Herald Axeman deck, because I haven't seen it represented very much, and I honestly don't know why. It seems on paper that it would still be as good as it has been. And if it's like, I know that cards like Peter from Nilfgaard like delete Axeman, so it's like you got to be careful about that kind of thing. And Peter's really popular right now, which is one of the reasons why maybe Consume Monsters is suffering, and stuff like that. Like I think that Peter being in the meta right now is kind of crazy. For some of these decks that are at lower strength. But I still think that Herald Axeman could do it, and it gives me a chance to experiment with Vabjorn, and I want to believe that that card is better than he appears to be, or maybe as good as he appears to be if people have changed their opinions on him. But yeah, those cards are really big for me right now. I haven't experimented with Kairan, but I want to, because like Tibor and Kairan, I think they're going to start inducing some counters. Like I think that, like for me, I'm thinking about running Shackles to maybe like stop them with like Scorches and other effects, because they are like, they demand your respect. They're just
They're
so
legit.
big. They're
Yeah.
just like big gold blocks that you just either can deal with or lose to. And they've tweaked those cards like ever since that they first introduced it. Tibor saw a couple of changes until it was just drawing you a bronze, and now Kairan has a boost of 8 on top of what he eats, and like that amount of power is absolutely worth cards at the end of the game, round 3. If you have a card you just can't use, like I think of like if you have Frightener in your hand with Kairan, like you don't really want to play a spy in round 3 if you don't like if you have a chance to not do that, because it's incredibly risky.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
To give your opponent that level of strength for a chance to maybe beat them. Well, instead Kairan can convert that basically into 18 strength and just sit there, and then it's like that's the best thing you could gotten from it. So it makes the new spy and monsters more viable as well, because it's kind of weird for them to even have it. And yeah, so I mean, I agree with everything you said about those cards, and I'm really excited to dig into Skellige next, and then I'll go into Nilfgaard, and then I'll return to Northern Realms, which I've spent a little bit of time with. But I want to believe that I think there's something going on. I think Nanika's kind of buggy right now, and I think a Seer is a little... Anything that shuffles cards back into your deck right now is kind of causing issues with the game client. So I'm waiting, I think, until that's hotfixed. But I think Nanika and like Botchling Lubberkin and like stuff like the Dunbanner Light Cavalry, like there's got to be a deck in there that I would really like to. So that's like
I personally recommend. I personally recommend Reaver Hunters, dude. Like I don't know if you tried them, but they're pretty insane.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I've never seen I've actually out-muscled Queensguard in the 3rd round with them, and I was like, whoa, like, they're powerful.
Yeah, you gotta curb them. Yeah, but the cool thing is you play Nilfgaard, right? So you get to double lock them sometimes, right?
Yeah, I have to. And Vicar Varmedic, I have to. Like Vicar Varmedic is our Lord and Savior against a lot of these powerful, archetypes that are rising. And I gotta agree with you on the whole Herald talk. Like I haven't tried him out myself either, but I think the same. Like I think that also like I really want to emphasize how Herald's ability is so good. Like if you set up a proper board, damaging with the likes of the Savage Bear, the Shield Maidens are just top-notch units. They're just exceptional, amongst the best bronze I think that in the game. And like a board for Herald, you can get insane value out of him. Like just kind of boom, boom, kill again. Yeah. And the fact that it can hit both sides, since so many people are running Nilfgaard, it can also be used as a way to like wipe your board and kill that pesky Khal Carcass on your side. Like I like him a lot too. Yeah, I gotta try him out, but I haven't ventured into that myself either. like I said, you said like I'm the same. Like I started ranking today, this morning, because I reached rank the actual rank yesterday at the end of my stream.
I saw you hit it actually live.
Nice.
Yeah, I tilted that crazy, but yeah, like I
click the rank. Click the rank.
I didn't want to, like, no,
you don't know what your rank is
until you click it. Like people are like, click the rank. Then I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, there is another theme that is going on right now, and it's a lot of people are having either one way or the other. Like, they're extremes at the moment. I don't think anybody's on between, and that is for weather. How do you guys feel about weather? McBeard, how do you feel about weather?
Yeah, so actually, we just posted the podcast today where we talked a little bit about this as well. So I feel like I've just had like a huge conversation about it. So I'm ready for this question.
Oh, so I got you back.
I just think that weather right now it's suffering from, I think the polarizing opinion right now is when the weather should activate. And I think that in general, they're moving in the right direction. I think that everybody's a lot more interested in weather now that we have them all as separate cards that do different things in different situations, and different cards that activate these cards, and the way the mages can clear weather and create weather, and the artifacts of the weather, like Gwent put a lot of resources into getting weather into like a mechanic that everybody can feel comfortable with, that feels powerful but also has counters. But there's a line there where right now, if you play weather, even if your opponent has a clear, specifically clear skies, they will actually lose strength dealing, like having the actual counter to your action. So it feels bad to end up behind. It's almost like you lose a turn and strength, and now your opponent gets to act again. So that's kind of that's an issue I think people are taking with it. I think it's not terrible. I think it gets terrible when we're talking about like Skellige Storm and Ragnarok. You really get put on the back foot when you clear it. But on the alternative situation where if you can clear it, you stop it completely. Now your opponent has played a silver or gold card for 0, and that feels weird at the same time. So there's a touchy balance. I think maybe bronze weather is ticking at the end of turn, and the silver one and the gold ones ticking at the beginning of your opponent's turn might feel okay, just so you feel like you're getting value out of silver and gold. But the bronze card's punishment for being a bronze card that can stop it is that you end up on the back foot, so people can maybe be a bit more comfortable with First Light clearing all of it. But I also think people are underplaying the weather clearing units, like Blue Stripe Scout and Archgriffin. Like that's where you get your tempo back. So I think people should play more of those units, maybe less First Lights, and then maybe 1 or 2 for Ragnarok specifically. But I think that we can adapt to it. I don't want to make any like. I want to sit on the fence for a couple more weeks. I want to experience it a bit more and play with it a bit more. But it's a hot topic. Sorry, that was really long-winded.
No, it's good. You know, here at Win City, we're professionals about it. But yeah, dude, definitely smart man hitting on the fence. What about you, Miguel?
Well, my opinion has differed here and there. I started saying basically that people were overreacting with Ragnarok at first, because I mean they kind of were, because the issue that happens in card game communities is that certain high level players reach a conclusion, they're vocal about it, and their followings just echo what they say all over the place, and that's not healthy for like a proper balance of the game. Like I would just basically be streaming. I don't play Ragnarok. I never played it. I don't use it in my decks because I don't even have the card. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of weather. Basically, I'm okay with people playing it, but I enjoy playing other things. But I would play, and I would constantly see my chat, people just screaming, "Ragnarok is the most OP stuff," and it's like, no, you can't say stuff like that. Like you gotta be cold and just rational about things. Yeah. Now, after experiencing a little bit, I can say that Ragnarok is incredibly powerful. And maybe it is a little bit too much because of the fact that what I do, I've built my deck so that I have very little presence on the range row, right? So when I lead off with my Alba Pikeman, for example, I drop him in the siege row most of the time because I want to be able to minimize the impact of a potential Ragnarok, which I know everybody is running. So you can adapt to that. I also gonna fall back on what McBeard said. I do run the Nausicaa standard bearer. I like that guy a lot. I think the units that clear weather are very good. But the thing is, yeah, he's amazing. I also like him because of the synergy with Nilfgaardian Knight. I'd run like one Nilfgaardian Knight, and sometimes I get to reveal something that I can eventually buff with him for the next round. So I have like a semi-overhead Dragoon there, you know?
Yeah.
But basically, I think that is mainly the likes of Ragnarok and the likes of Skellige Storm, because they do deal a little bit too much damage, up to the point where people are opting to just run them in every single deck, and I don't think that's healthy. I think Ragnarok is a card that would belong in a control weather deck, so I want to see a change that would make it so that that card is not included in every deck, and because you can still run it even like, I really like the idea of having it damage at the end of the turn. Because yes, you can have your gold card countered by a bronze card potentially. That is correct. But in a proper weather control deck, you can bait out that removal with other weather, cheaper weather, and then drop the nuke with Ragnarok, especially because Ragnarok gets more value when your opponent has to develop more of a board, obviously. So I think a change like that to the basically the timing of when it hits would definitely hinder the viability of Ragnarok, and people will stop running it. But people stop running Ragnarok, the metagame takes a different direction, and people stop running so many responses to weather, and this makes control weather decks more impactful. And I think that leads to an overall healthier metagame. So we still got to test. We still got to, we're only like a few days in, right? But I feel like weather is going to be one of the most tricky things. They've definitely like done so much better than before. Like before, weather was just absolutely disgusting. Like it shut down your row. But I do feel like in that direction, things would be better. It's not about just screaming Ragnarok's OP and just crying about it. It's about sitting down and fighting the proper response, because it is a little bit overboard as of now. And I'll admit, like I was saying, people were overreacting, but like I said, I can admit that, yeah, maybe it is a little bit too much, and we can find the tweak to it without hurting the bronze weathers, which is the main concern about nerfing that. But I do think that it feels bad when your opponent plays a gold card and they get the immediate value out of it, and even if you have the respond in your hand, you don't really completely counter it.
Yeah, definitely. I've been actually adapting to this by just simply stacking on one row. Like if you're gonna hit me with weather, that's fine, but then I'm gonna stagger my strength. I'm gonna do one row, and you can get two points of value every single turn. I'm okay with that. So I think that the proper way to do is try to counter that, trying to adapt, and then from there on get that information and carry it over. Because we cannot just simply say, okay, I'm out. Because sometimes on reality it feels bad, but if you actually see it and start counting, you actually Ragnarok gets like 12 points of value. It's just, sometimes. So we just have to be more knowledgeable about it.
It's also like a trend, people are running that like a lot, because like I said, certain high level players have been saying, oh, this and that, and everybody just wants like I think something that we can all see. I'm pretty sure Dane, you've experienced the same, like with our recent streams, is that we get like a bunch of people who just keep spamming like, what's your deck? What's your deck? What's the best meta deck? What's the best metagame deck? Which is normal because the game is getting a lot of exposure. It's fantastic. But you're seeing this influx of people who want to come in immediately and take the top tier deck. So I think it's being over spammed at the same time because people just really want to, use the most powerful stuff.
Yes.
So
and I feel like it's almost great to not have a clear answer. Like it's hard for me to answer that. What's the best deck? I mean, we know that Skellige and Nilfgaard are really popular right now, but I don't think I can say confidently that they are the best. I just think that they're the most popular. So it's like I've never been happier to not know the answer to that question.
Exactly.
I think that public beta and like the amount of changes and also the wipe of the collection at the same time to kind of stymie experimentation. I think it is going to be like there's going to be a lot of tastemakers that are going to kind of guide the game. Like now more than ever, the game will be pushed in a certain direction because people will be crafting their collections based off the opinions of people like anybody who's really making content that's out there. So It means that cards that are not played very often will even be less played because more people will be not crafting those cards because they think that their favorite players aren't using those cards. So that's, it's expected. It's not, I don't think it's the perfect world because I think everybody should be trying everything, but it's just not how card games work generally. I mean, if anybody's played a card game before, you know that the community will dictate what is popular and you'll have to tech against that a lot of the time. And I just wanted to touch on something you said, McGoai, about how, if everybody ran Ragnarok, people would start to run counters all the time and maybe Ragnarok would go away a little bit and like stuff like that. But I actually just had a conversation with a friend of mine a couple days ago about how transit is supposed to clear like city streets, are supposed to make city streets less populated, but by making city streets less populated, you actually invite more traffic onto those streets because people say, oh, there's no traffic, so I can now drive on the street more often or maybe move further away. So it's like there's always going to be a fighting balance of trying to run weather and clear weather, and I think that it's always going to be in rotation. There's always going to be rotation of heavy weather clears or heavy weather, and the balance is people's commitment to one or the other. Because if there's no weather, like even cards like Nausicaa Standard Bearer, which are good, which is a good card, even a card like that is a little less optimal than maybe a stronger card in a world where there's absolutely no weather at all. You might want to run something else instead.
Yeah.
But so decks will start to feel weaker if they're teched against weather and there is none. So then there would be an adaptation to run weather again, and thus making those decks more strong. Like it's really, I want to believe that there's going to be this tug of war of power with weather, and that ultimately it's all going to settle and be okay when we look at it all and kind of, the conservation bias goes away and the stats come in and, like we actually get final decision on, beta balance as it keeps to move forward. So, like I said, I'm on that fence for a little bit longer, and we'll see what the consensus is. But I'm really excited, and I think it's an awesome discussion topic.
Yeah. Okay. So now both of you are content creators, are streamers. Where can people find you, Miguel?
Well, you can find me at youtube.com/MegaMogai, or with the C in the middle. Basically just search MegaMogai and you'll find me there. And then Twitch is the same, but with a 0, because I made my account prior, but I lost my password, so I had to make it again.
Mistakes were made.
But
You
mistakes
can't
were
even
made.
change it.
I can actually. I think I can now, but I'm a little bit like, I don't know if that's gonna affect people who try to follow me, and now all of a sudden they can't find me because I changed my name again. It's weird. But basically, Mega from the Mega and Mogwai, from the Gremlins movies, the little creatures. That's my name, and you can find me there. I upload Gwent videos, and I stream pretty much every day as well. And it's fun, man. Like Gwent is amazing. Like I love streaming it right now. It's just it doesn't get old for me at all. It's just so great. The metagame is so great. Even though like there's a lot of weather, people may say, "Oh, weather, you guys have not seen prior metas." Like this is a huge step in the right direction, and I'm so psyched for the future of this game. Like it's getting such an influx of players, and deservedly so. Like have you guys seen the premiums? Like oh my god.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Woo, those premiums.
What about you, McBeard? Where can people find you? Where can people see you? Where can people hear you?
People can follow me on Twitter at McBeardCH, where I post updates and funny jokes sometimes about Gwent, and I make YouTube videos as well. I'm trying to get back into the swing of doing them daily. I gotta lift my YouTube weights like Mogwai because he's a content monster. So you can find me C/McBeard on YouTube as well, and I stream every weekday and sometimes on the weekends at McBearded, starting around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time these days. And we're grinding the ladder. We're testing decks out. We're dueling on some days as well with viewers, and it's a good time. Twitch.tv/McBearded. And of course, I am also the host of one of the hosts of Commander's Horn podcast. You can find us at commandershorn.com or on iTunes as well. We just released an episode today, if this is Sunday, in which the day you're listening to this. And it's that's going pretty well as well. 37 episodes already. And shout outs to Grey Boxer.
Hopefully you get invited to that.
Yeah, we're actually breaking news. Mogwai is our guest on next week's episode, and
that makes it a Gwent series unique. Oh yes, we got brand news right here. Great, this is it.
So if you like this, you'll like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas, your knowledge about the game. Thank you so much for being a great part of this community and giving us the Gwent we want and the Gwent we desire. Here we go, guys.
Thank you for the compliments.
Thanks. Yeah, you're too kind, Manty. You're too kind.
We do
You make
what
us
we
feel
can.
great.
That's great. That's what we want in Gwent City. Well, thank you guys so much for being here with us, and I'll see you next time.